Sophia Marinelli stood before the antique mirror in her grandmother's workshop in Rome, watching as delicate fingers adjusted the collar of a white embroidered shirt that seemed to glow in the late afternoon light. The intricate patterns, woven in threads that caught the sun like strands of gold, told stories that Sophia was only beginning to understand. Her grandmother, Lucia, had always said that every stitch carried a memory, every pattern held a secret, and today, those words echoed with new meaning. "Nana," Sophia whispered, touching the elaborate design that curved around her shoulder, "where did you learn to create these patterns?" Lucia's weathered hands paused in their work, and her eyes met Sophia's in the mirror's reflection. For a moment, something flickered in those deep brown eyes, a shadow of memory, perhaps, or a ghost of untold stories. "These patterns," Lucia began, her voice carrying the weight of years, "they came to me from a woman I met long ago, during the darkest days of my life. Her name was Katerina, and she saved more than just my art. She saved my soul." Sophia turned to face her grandmother, surprised by the tremor in her voice. In all her 28 years, she had never heard this story, never seen such emotion cross her grandmother's usually composed features. As one of Italy's most renowned costume designers for film and theater, Lucia Marinelli was known for her strength, her artistry, and her unwavering dedication to her craft. But now something else showed through, vulnerability, perhaps, or long-buried pain. It was 1986, Lucia continued, moving to sit in her favorite chair by the window, where the fading light cast long shadows across the workshop floor. "I had lost everything, my studio in Milan, my reputation, all because of one man's lies. I fled to Rome with nothing but a suitcase of threads and a broken heart." Sophia settled at her grandmother's feet, just as she had done countless times as a child. But this time was different. This time, she sensed, she was about to hear a story that would change everything she thought she knew about her family's legacy. "That winter was the coldest Rome had seen in decades," Lucia said, her eyes distant. "I was sleeping in a tiny room above a bakery, taking any work I could find. And then, one morning I saw her, Katerina. She was standing in the Piazza Navona, selling the most beautiful embroidered pieces I had ever seen. But it wasn't just the craftsmanship that caught my eye. It was the way she held herself, with such dignity, such grace, even though I could see in her eyes that she too carried deep wounds." Sophia leaned forward entranced. "What happened next, Nana?" Lucia smiled, a bittersweet expression that seemed to transform her face. "Ah, that's where the real story begins, my dear. Because what I didn't know then was that Katerina wasn't just selling embroidery. She was protecting a secret that would connect our families forever. A secret that today has become more important than ever." The elderly artisan rose slowly from her chair and walked to an old cedar chest in the corner of the workshop. With reverent hands, she lifted the lid and withdrew a carefully folded bundle wrapped in silk. "Sophia, what I'm about to show you, it's time you knew the truth. Especially now with what's happening in Ukraine. Because sometimes, my dear, destiny weaves patterns more intricate than any we could design ourselves." As Lucia began to unfold the silk bundle, Sophia's heart raced with anticipation. Outside, the bells of Santa Maria Maggiore began to toll, their deep resonance filling the workshop with an almost mystical atmosphere. Whatever secret lay within that carefully preserved package, Sophia knew that her life was about to change forever, and that this was only the beginning of a story that had been waiting decades to be told. The sound of heels clicking on cobblestones outside the workshop window made both women pause. Sophia saw her grandmother's expression shift, becoming more alert, more focused. "And speaking of destiny," Lucia murmured, "I believe we're about to have a visitor who will make everything clear." The workshop door opened with a gentle creak, and Sophia's breath caught in her throat. The woman who entered moved with the kind of grace that seemed to belong to another era, tall, elegant, with striking dark eyes that immediately commanded attention. But it was the shirt she wore that made Sophia's hands tremble, a white embroidered piece that seemed to mirror the patterns in the bundle her grandmother still held. "Monica," Lucia breathed, and Sophia felt her world tilt slightly. Monica Bellucci, the iconic actress whose presence filled the small workshop, wasn't just any visitor. She moved forward to embrace Lucia like an old friend, speaking rapid Italian that carried the warmth of long association. "Lucia, mia cara," Monica said, pulling back to study the older woman's face. "It's time, isn't it? They've found it." Lucia nodded, her fingers tightening on the silk bundle. "Sophia," she said, turning to her granddaughter, what we're about to tell you, it begins in 1986 with Katerina, but its roots go much deeper." Monica settled into a chair, her presence somehow making the workshop feel both smaller and more significant. Your grandmother, she began, her voice carrying the weight of untold stories, saved my career before it truly began. But that's only a small part of what she and Katerina did for so many of us. The bundle in Lucia's hands was finally unwrapped, revealing a shirt so fine it seemed to have been woven for moonlight. The embroidery was unlike anything Sophia had ever seen, patterns within patterns, symbols that seemed to shift and change as the fabric moved. This, Lucia said, was Katerina's masterpiece. But it's not just art, it's a map. A map. Sophia found herself moving closer, drawn by the intricate needlework. To understand, Monica interjected, you need to know what happened in the winter of 1986. Your grandmother didn't just meet Katerina by chance. They were both part of something larger, a network of women who protected and preserved cultural treasures that others would have destroyed. Lucia's hands traced the patterns on the shirt. Katerina was carrying secrets when she fled to Italy, not just the traditional patterns of her people, but information about artifacts hidden away during darker times. The embroidery was her code, her way of preserving both art and history. Each stitch, each symbol, tells the location of something precious. But why show me now? Sophia asked, though something in her heart already knew the answer. Monica leaned forward, her expression intense. Because history is repeating itself, Kara. The things Katerina helped hide, they're in danger again. And you, with your talent for design and your eye for pattern, you're the only one who can help us decode the final message. Sophia's head spun as she looked between the two women. The shirt you're wearing, she said to Monica, it's not just a fashion statement, is it? The actress smiled, touching the embroidery at her collar. No. It's a signal to those who know where to look. There are women in Ukraine right now, fighting to preserve their heritage just as Katerina did. They've been waiting for this moment, waiting for us to find the last piece of the puzzle. Lucia stood, moving to a large design table covered in sketches. For decades, I've been recreating these patterns in my work, in costumes, in fashion pieces. Each time, sending a message, we remember. We preserve. We protect. But now... She paused, pulling out a particular drawing that made Monica inhale sharply. Now, Monica continued, we've received word that something has been discovered in an old church in Kiev. Something that matches a pattern your grandmother has been guarding for 40 years. Sophia looked at the shirt in her grandmother's hands, then at the one Monica wore, seeing them suddenly with new eyes. The patterns weren't just beautiful, they were a language, a code, a bridge across time and borders. There's more, Lucia said softly. Katerina, she had a granddaughter too. And 2 days ago she contacted me. She's coming to Rome, Sophia. She has the other half of the map we need, hidden in an embroidered piece just like this one. Thunder rolled in the distance and the workshop's lights flickered briefly as if the very elements were responding to the weight of history unfolding in that small space. When? Sophia asked, her voice barely a whisper. Monica checked her watch, her expression growing more serious. Her flight landed 20 minutes ago. She'll be here any moment. And Sophia? She paused, her dark eyes intense, everything depends on what happens next. The sound of footsteps on the stairs outside made all three women turn toward the door. Sophia's heart pounded as she realized she was about to meet someone who, like her, had inherited a legacy she never knew existed. And with that meeting, her ordinary life as a design assistant was about to transform into something she could never have imagined.
Tell us in the comments what part of this story impressed you the most. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the world of incredible events.
The black Mercedes wound its way through London's rain-slick streets, its tinted windows offering a shield from prying eyes. Emma sat in the back with Sarah while Claire rode in the front, maintaining constant communication with the safe house staff. The city lights blurred past like smeared watercolors, creating an almost dreamlike atmosphere that belied the very real danger of their situation. Emma's driver, Marcus, a former security specialist who'd worked with her for years, kept checking the mirrors with practiced vigilance. "We've got a silver BMW that's been with us for the last 3 turns," he reported quietly, his voice carrying decades of professional experience. "Could be nothing, but..." Sarah's face went pale. "Jason, he drives a silver BMW," she whispered, her fingers clutching the edge of the leather seat. "He has friends who help him, who watch for him." Emma's mind raced through options. She'd been in difficult situations before, dealing with overzealous paparazzi, navigating through crowds of fans, but this was different. This wasn't about protecting her privacy, it was about protecting someone's life. "Marcus," Emma said calmly, though her heart was pounding, "remember that protocol we used in Edinburgh last year?" A slight smile crossed Marcus's face as he understood. "The old shell game? Been a while, but I remember." What happened next was a masterclass in urban evasion. Marcus took them through a series of complex turns, using London's maze-like streets to their advantage. They passed through Hackney, then doubled back through Islington, using the late-night traffic as cover. At one point, they pulled into the parking garage of a high-end hotel where Emma frequently stayed. "Watch," Emma told Sarah softly as 3 identical black Mercedes emerged from the garage, each heading in different directions. It was a tactic Emma's security team had developed for situations when she needed to avoid persistent photographers. Tonight, it would serve a far more crucial purpose. The BMW followed one of the decoy cars, and Emma felt Sarah release a breath she'd been holding for what seemed like hours. But their relief was short-lived. "We've got another problem," Claire announced, looking up from her phone. "The safe house just called. They've had a pipe burst. They're evacuating everyone to backup locations." Emma saw the hope drain from Sarah's face, replaced by the same terror she'd witnessed at the community center. Without thinking, she reached out and took the younger woman's hand. "Hey, look at me," she said firmly. "We didn't come this far to give up now." "Claire, what about the secondary location we discussed last month?" Claire shook her head. "Full capacity. They're all stretched thin right now." Emma made a decision then, one that would have her security team and publicist in fits, but she knew in her heart it was right. "Marcus, take us to the cottage." The cottage was actually a secluded property in Surrey that Emma had purchased through a blind trust. Very few people knew about it. It was her refuge when she needed to escape the pressures of public life, secured with state-of-the-art systems and known only to her most trusted inner circle. "Emma, no," Claire protested. "That's too much of a risk for you." "The risk is already taken," Emma replied quietly. "The moment we decided to help, we accepted the responsibility." Besides, she added with a hint of her characteristic determination, "It's probably the safest place we could take her right now." As they left the city lights behind, heading into the darkness of the countryside, Sarah finally spoke again. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why are you doing all this? You don't even know me." Emma was quiet for a moment, watching the shadowy trees pass outside the window. "Because someone once told me that our privilege means nothing if we don't use it to lift others up. Because every person deserves the chance to write their own story." She turned to Sarah with a gentle smile. "And because sometimes the most important things we do in life are the things nobody else will ever know about." What none of them realized was that their night of challenges was far from over. As Marcus turned onto the private road leading to the cottage, Emma's phone lit up with an urgent message that would force them to reevaluate everything they thought they knew about their situation. The real test of their improvised plan was about to begin. Emma's phone cast a blue glow across her face as she read the message that had just arrived. Her expression remained carefully controlled, but Sarah, who had grown hyper-aware of subtle changes during her years of walking on eggshells, noticed the slight tension in her jaw. "What is it?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling slightly. Emma exchanged a quick glance with Claire before responding. "Jason's brother is a detective inspector," she said quietly. "He's just filed a missing persons report. They're claiming you're mentally unstable and have gone off your medication." Sarah's laugh was hollow, tinged with hysteria. "Medication? I'm not on any," she stopped, understanding dawning on her face. "They're setting things up, making sure nobody will believe me." The cottage emerged from the darkness, a beautiful stone structure nestled among ancient oaks, its windows dark and welcoming. Under different circumstances, it might have looked peaceful. Tonight, it felt like the last fortress in a storm. Marcus did a perimeter check before allowing them to exit the car, his experienced eyes scanning the shadows. The cottage's security system was top of the line, another necessity of Emma's public life that was now serving a different purpose. Inside, Emma moved with practiced efficiency, activating security protocols while Claire made calls to her legal contacts. The cottage's interior was warm and understated, with comfortable furniture and walls lined with books, a space designed for privacy rather than show. "We need to get ahead of this," Claire said, hanging up her phone. "If they're building a paper trail, we need one of our own. Sarah, would you be willing to make a statement? We can have a lawyer here within the hour." Sarah had been standing in the middle of the living room, arms wrapped around herself, looking small in the large space. At Claire's words, she began to shake her head. "You don't understand. His brother, he's got influence. He's got friends in the department. They'll bury anything I say." "Then we don't go to the police," Emma said firmly, setting down her phone. "We go above them. I have contacts at the Independent Office for Police Conduct. And more importantly," she added, a hint of steel entering her voice, "I have friends in the media who owe me favors, friends who would love to expose corruption in the police force." "But you'd have to go public," Sarah protested. "Your name would be involved. Your career." "My career can handle it," Emma interrupted gently. "My reputation was built on standing up for what's right. Besides," she added with a small smile, "I learned a long time ago that there are more important things than public opinion." The moment was interrupted by Marcus's voice from the security room. Movement at the perimeter. 2 vehicles coming up the private road. Emma's heart began to race, but her voice remained steady. "Security cameras? Range Rover and BMW. Can't make out the plates yet." Sarah's face went white. "Jason has a Range Rover too. For business." "Oh God, oh God." "Okay, we need to move," Emma said, her mind already racing through contingencies. "Marcus, Protocol 3. Claire, get your contact on the phone. We need that lawyer now." "Sarah," she turned to the trembling young woman, "listen to me carefully. In about 30 seconds, all the exterior lights are going to come on. Every camera on the property will start recording. If they're here, they're about to provide us with evidence of harassment and stalking. But I need to know, are you ready for this to become a fight?" Sarah stared at Emma for a long moment, and something seemed to shift in her expression. The terror was still there, but underneath it was something else, something harder and more determined. "I'm tired of running," she whispered, then louder, "I'm tired of being afraid." Emma nodded, a fierce pride mixing with her concern. "Then let's show them what happens when women stand together." The security lights flooded the property with brilliant illumination, and in that instant, everything changed. What had been a night of quiet escape was about to become a confrontation that would test not just their safety measures, but their resolve, their resourcefulness, and their trust in each other. As the vehicles approached the gate, Emma thought about all the roles she'd played in her life: actress, activist, public figure, but never had any felt more important than the one she was playing tonight: ally, protector, friend. Whatever came next, she knew they would face it together. The next few minutes unfolded like scenes from a film, but there was nothing scripted about the tension crackling through the cottage's air. Emma stood at the window, watching the vehicles stop at the gate, her mind racing through every possible scenario. The cottage's intercom crackled to life. "Police. We're here about a missing persons case." Emma caught Sarah's eye and held up her phone, showing the recording icon. Every word would be documented. Claire was already on a video call with her legal contact, the phone propped up to capture everything. "This is private property." Emma's voice was clear and steady through the intercom. "I have state-of-the-art security cameras recording everything. Please state your purpose and show identification." There was a pause, then a different voice, one that made Sarah flinch. "Sarah? Baby, we're worried sick. Everyone's looking for you. Just come home, and we can sort this out." Jason's voice was gentle, concerned, the voice of a worried partner. But Emma saw how Sarah's hands had begun to shake, how her breathing had become shallow. That gentle voice had become a weapon of control. Emma pressed the intercom button again. I'm going to be very clear. We have documented evidence of domestic abuse. We have lawyers on the line right now. If you're really police, you'll know that this property belongs to me, Emma Watson, and you'll understand the media attention any forced entry would attract. Another pause, longer this time. Emma could almost feel the calculations happening outside, weighing the risks, considering the exposure. Miss Watson, the first voice again, professional now, all pretense of friendly concern gone. This is a police matter. If you're harboring... I'm not harboring anyone, Emma interrupted, her voice sharp. I'm protecting a victim of domestic violence while she pursues legal channels. Now, would you like me to contact the Independent Office for Police Conduct about a potential abuse of power, or would you prefer to leave and follow proper procedures? The silence that followed seemed to stretch forever. Then, engines started. Through the security cameras, they watched the vehicles slowly reverse, turn around, and disappear into the night. The cottage seemed unnaturally quiet in their wake. Sarah sank onto the sofa, tears streaming down her face, tears of relief, of fear, of too many emotions to name. Emma sat beside her, offering silent support. They'll be back, Sarah whispered. Maybe not tonight, but... Yes, Emma agreed gently. But not in the same way. Now there's evidence. Witnesses. A paper trail. And most importantly, she squeezed Sarah's hand. You're not alone anymore. Over the next few weeks, that promise was tested repeatedly. There were legal battles, attempts at intimidation, moments when the weight of fighting the system seemed almost too heavy to bear. But Emma remained steadfast, using her influence not for publicity, but to quietly open doors that might have otherwise remained closed. She helped Sarah find not just legal support, but trauma counseling, job training, and eventually, a new start in a different city. The media never got the story. Emma made sure of that, protecting Sarah's privacy as fiercely as she protected her safety. Months later, Emma received a letter. Inside was a photograph of Sarah, smiling genuinely for the first time since Emma had met her, standing in front of a small bookshop. I'm the assistant manager now, the letter read. Sometimes customers ask about the quote I chose for our window display. Every person deserves the chance to write their own story. They don't know where it came from, but I do. Thank you for helping me find my voice again. Emma kept that letter in a private drawer in her cottage alongside other reminders of moments when she'd managed to make a real difference, not as a celebrity, but as a human being reaching out to another human being in need. Years later, when asked about her proudest accomplishment, Emma would think of that night, of the courage it took for Sarah to say, enough, of the strength found in women supporting women. But publicly, she would just smile and talk about her charitable work in general terms. Because sometimes, she knew, the most meaningful victories are the ones that remain untold, private moments of triumph marked not by applause, but by the quiet knowledge that somewhere, someone's world is better because you chose to act. Sarah's story never made headlines. It wasn't added to Emma's list of public achievements. But in the end, that was exactly the point. Sometimes the most powerful changes happen in the spaces between public moments, in the quiet decisions to stand up, to reach out, to say, you are not alone. And for Emma, that had always been the most important magic of all.
Tell us in the comments what part of this story impressed you the most. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the world of incredible events.